Here's the truth nobody in Christian spaces will tell you. Biblical masculinity makes you irresistible to woman because it awakens something in woman that is so central, that is so key, that you don't even know exists right now because it's never been taught. Today I'm given a framework. I'm given a framework that will tap into this foundational truth that God built into woman for us men to understand. So we'll start with the first principle, first section, the envy of Eve. All right, this is going to be super important. All right, I want you to think about this video like the rock you're going to build your house on. The house is the external stuff, that's the money, the status, so on and so forth. But this rock is understanding women and understanding yourself in relation to women. This is the foundation. You see all these people with a lot of money, a lot of status, without God, that get cheated on. Okay? This happens because they don't have the foundation. The foundation is God and understandings that come from God through the Bible, right? So, the most clear story in the Bible that you will get as far as female nature, the most concise one, will be Adam and Eve. For those who don't know, God made man first, Adam, and then he made woman from Adam. And from Adam's rib, to be specific. And woman was created as a servant, as a helper for man. Helper is probably a nicer word, right? I don't really care about the feminists. They're going to cry their eyes out no matter what I say in this video. But helper is probably more, prudent. But servant you can use in a certain context. In any case, there was a tree in the garden that they were not allowed to eat from. And the serpent targeted Eve. Why did the serpent target Eve? Who knows? You say it. I don't want to get terminated. Yeah, but you know why. Okay? Let's be real here. All right. That being said, Eve ate the apple, and Adam, which his sin being not questioning his wife, not questioning motives, not being on top of things like a man should be, ate the apple as well. And that essentially doomed humanity. Gave us the need for Jesus Christ to redeem it. Now, the most important part for what we're going to talk about in this video is a command God gave to Eve. All right, this command was a prescriptive command, as in this is prescribed. This is a moral statement. Your desire will be contrary to your husband, but he will rule over you. So, again, feminists. But for us, the men, right? The men that still have penises and testicles, right? We understand this to mean that women are in a position of helping the man, right? Because we're the leaders. We're supposed to be the leaders. And it's important to recognize this aspect because it directly leads to a concept I call envy from Eve. Now, Freud, Sigmund Freud, a very famous psychologist, had a concept called penis envy. Okay? And penis envy is basically, it's a very intelligent theory in one way, but it's also a very retarded theory in another way. It's intelligent in that it correctly points out that women have this kind of switchy thing going on where they either become very vindictive towards men, which is feminism, right? Or they become very, good, let's say submissive. And they're happily submissive. So this is like the good wife. Right? And this is like the blue-haired feminist, right? Now, what exactly leads to this kind of development in a woman? Well, it matters on how they develop, not their penis envy, because the bad part of the theory is saying that the women have this thing because they realize they don't have a penis. It's really dumb. It's a really dumb way of catching it out. But in reality, it has to do with God's command to Eve. Right? God's command to Eve is that your husband will rule over you. So this either leads to them finding a man, so it starts out with their father, and then it becomes their husband in a proper development, so man, husband. And this matters because in the Bible it says that man is the head of woman, right? So in a way, it's kind of like this lineage of woman, man, and then you have God, right? It goes up like that. It has to go through the man. So they submit to a man in their life. If they have a good man in their life, that'll be pretty easy. They'll naturally do it. They'll have a good, proper development. Or what will happen is what we see in society a lot, where they become very vindictive. All right, this is the feminist propaganda spiel. And this is, when we talk about subverting societies, all right, I don't want to make this video super, just condensed in a box. I really want to help you guys learn a lot of different stuff. When we're talking about the subversion of society, a lot of the degeneracy we see in society, a lot of this stuff comes from specifically targeting parts of men and women that are easily exploitable. So for women, this thing, you can easily present to them that, you know, you've been told by men you can't do this, you can't do that, but guess what? You're a girl boss. You get to do whatever you want. Show it to the men and really take advantage of this envy, turn to this vindictive thing, right? And for men, let's say we have, let's say porn. Okay, men are much more inclined to watch porn because, you know, women, you know, if you present the idea to them, like, it's kind of icky, you know, it's like men, like women don't enjoy looking at naked men as much as men enjoy looking at naked women. So for the woman, they use this. For the men, they use porn, right? And this extends to many different things. So this is very important to understand because you've been told by a lot of Christians that men and women, you know, egalitarian values, liberal values. They don't say liberal, but it's liberal in the sense of they're not separating men and women apart from each other. They're equal, they're both human, but they're very different. They're very distinct. They're given different commands. They have different psychologies, different biology, different everything. Okay? And it's very important to recognize this because when you listen to them, like, oh, have female pastors or whatever, that is going to directly inhibit your ability to women. Because even if they are this vindictive person, there's always going to be a part of them that desires this. So, I don't want to get too vulgar in this video, but I'll quickly go over the concept of dark fantasy. Now, I want to keep this not too vulgar, because honestly, it's in poor taste in a video like this to be very vulgar and outright with things. Not that I've never, you know, said things that are very outright and forward, but for some reason I don't feel like it's appropriate in this video. With that being said, dark fantasy, you guys know what I'm talking about. The books they read, because they don't watch videos, rather they read books. And these books, you know, it's about werewolves, about vampires, it's about alpha billionaires, so on and so forth, doing things to them after they say no. Let's keep it at that, right? And it's funny because you even see feminists on the feminist subreddit talking about how they like the books, but they don't want to be submissive. And that's just simply because it's in a woman's nature. Even if they do take this vindictive side, they still desire this. Because ultimately, we deep down desire to unite with the Creator. And for a woman, it has a lot to do with this hierarchy. Man being the head of woman. Understanding their place. So, this dark fantasy stuff links to this. Okay, woman, they will always desire to be put their proper place in hierarchy from man to God. And this is most present when they are really thinking about assessing a man as a partner. Right? So, don't listen to what women say on the street about that one man does this or one man does that. Rather, you should listen to the deep stuff. You should listen to the Bible, first and foremost, which you get this from. You should listen to deep psychoanalytic confessions. So not these scientific studies where they're appealing to people's personas. Rather, the psychoanalytic confession of when they are in a private setting with a psychologist and they are dumping out their whole entire unconscious, their dreams, so on and so forth. And, of course, what they do and what they read as far as dark fantasy stuff. But yeah, so that is envy from Eve. Okay, it's very important to understand this because it helps you understand that women are different from men and that they should be treated as such and that they're looking for a man that they can submit to, right? In order to allow for this envy from Eve to develop properly. Alright, you've made it to the next section. Congratulations. You are not a brain-rotted total retard. So let's get into the trifecta of attraction. Let's see if I can get my actual pen out. Alright. Hopefully you guys can hear that siren going off in the background. So this is the trifecta of attraction. Okay, we have F, R, and K. And first, we're going to go over something very important, okay? The trifecta of attraction is a trifecta. It is not a monolith, okay? A trifecta is three things, right? Three things. It's triangle, and it's Illuminati confirmed, right? There's this tension between all three of them. All three of them are embodied at the same time, okay? It's very, very important. I'll go over the consequences of each archetype, each section. If you go too far with any one of them, that leads to problems. And you see this in a lot of the ideologies that are spread online. So with that being said, let's get into the first one, which will be the father archetype, which can also be written out as love. Right? So when we're talking about loving archetype, the biblical support for this is abundance. When it says, love your wife as you love yourself. Love your neighbor as thyself. Love is very important. I need you to understand this. Okay, even outside of the woman. Because remember, when you are able to see beyond the woman, that's when you're in the best place to get a woman. When women are just the hyperfixation of your mind, you're just a loser. Okay, let's just be straight up. With that being said, love is very important. When Jesus was asked what are the two most important commands, he said, first, love God. Second, love your neighbor. Love, things that aren't done in love are worthless. Okay, for humans, because love is the greatest form of expression for humans. If you find yourself unable to love, that's something you should deal with first. And I'll make other content related to psychology or whatever, and I've already made content related to that stuff. But love is very important. So, love your wife. If you listen to a lot of this red pill stuff, this black pill stuff, they'll dilute the concept of love. They'll treat love as a vacuous concept, something that doesn't really matter that much. But that's because they don't have God. They don't think humans have souls. So of course they think love's a vacuous concept. When you don't believe in God, love is just chemicals going on, and it's not real. Okay? But we're Christian. We live in souls. Souls are real. So love is really a connection from me to you to another person, so on and so forth. That is the deepest expression of our beings. And with that being said, what happens if you isolate it? Turn into a monolithic thing? Well, that's when you become a pushover. You become a loser. And you may think on the surface that, how could too much love be bad? It's not necessarily having too much love. It's leaning too much into valuing the other person. In some sense, it actually becomes a lack of love. Because think of a parent, right? You can think of them not disciplining their child as an act of love, but in another sense, it's not good for the child. So in that sense, it's not necessarily an act of love, right? So that being said, this is seen most when these Christian men give you advice on YouTube, like, oh, just be nice. Be Christian, be nice. That doesn't work. It's not good, because a woman won't respect you. She won't respect you. That's not sexually attractive. And she may love you, but love isn't the thing that keeps a relationship fully together. It's the tension between, it's the results of it holding the tension between the three. Right? This is what will make a woman feel fuzzy. Right? This is when you hold them at night. This is when you say sweet things to them. This is very important. So it makes you feel all fuzzy and warm inside. But what warmth, what fuzziness will come from a man that has no respect, no character? He's a pushover. It loses its value. The loving loses its value. And ultimately, when it comes to a woman being loyal, when it comes to a woman being in her place in a relationship, that is first and foremost about respect. Right? So, you can't go too far in this one. That being said, the one that seemingly directly counteracts that, again, holding that tension, is the king. Now, the king, you can think about like law and order. I'm going to help you guys with this, because I see so many men making this mistake. I just spilled water. Well, that's a mistake right there, right? Hopefully this thing doesn't mess up my drawing book. It's got water all over it. Yeah, I have a wet spot in my shirt now. Alright, whatever. It's okay. Alright, with that being said, okay, law and order. Right? So, an example of a lack of order would be what just happened. Right? Chaos. Woman, we'll go over that when we go over the next archetype, but chaos, even if there's chaos, it has to be controlled, because too much chaos is never good. I was going to say this. I work with people, they ask me about a woman, and we go over some things related to women a decent amount of time, and I also observe people. One of the biggest mistakes they make is not taking charge. King's like the leader, law, order, foundation, a rock. I see a lot of men, they're like, oh, well, where do you want to go out to eat? What time? They're asking too many questions of her. Women want you to be in control. They want a man that can take control. And this goes back to what we talked about earlier with envy from Eve, right? So, law and order should be important. This is also the party that sets boundaries. Says, okay, we're not going to do this, and we are going to do this, right? Do and not do. All these things, all right? Think about being the king of the relationship, the leader, like the quarterback, whatever analogy you would like to use. It's very important. A lot of men are worried about the woman saying, well, you can't, no, I'm not going to listen to you. That's when the next archetype becomes useful, but also, you have to understand something, okay? You can't be scared of making a woman feel mad or feel sad. Doesn't mean you should make her feel mad or sad. What it does mean is that you need to be very wise, be very intelligent. You need to put your values first. Okay? If she is telling you something and that goes against her values, it doesn't matter how mad or sad she gets. You need to do the right thing. That's law and order. That's the king. When you're too far into the fatherly aspect of that pushover type of thing, that's when you bend. And women, in more ways than one, they like something that stays straight and up, not bend. Okay? They like men with erectile function, not erectile dysfunction, of the spirit and literally. Okay? So, you gotta think of yourself like a strong pillar that she can conform around to. And she may test it. Like I said, that's when the next archetype becomes useful. But you also can't lean too far into this. You may think, how could law and order be bad? Too much. Well, there's one very... Okay, there we go. There's one very key part that is important that is usually overlooked. Respect and love need to work together. Okay, if you just have respect and she doesn't love you, that's not going to make for a good long-term relationship. It's going to feel like a very cold relationship. It usually won't even last. And in the same way how a woman that loves a man but doesn't respect her, or respect him, respect her, it's very fitting, doesn't respect him, will go and seek out respect from another man. If she respects a man but doesn't find love from him, she'll try to find love other ways. She may not cheat on him due to the respecting aspect, but she'll seek out love in some kind of expression, right? And it won't be within a relationship. That will weaken the relationship, okay? This dichotomy is very important. So, the easiest way to embody this is to do everything out of love. Even when you tell her that something is wrong and tell her not to do it, do that out of love. Everything in love, and have your moments where, you're a big teddy bear. Right? Because you like women like bears. Okay, like a man that can be like a grizzly bear, with claws, destroy anything in the path, but also, be like a teddy bear sometimes. Just cuddle and be happy, right? Again, can't lean too far into either one. It's problems. That being said, next one, rebel. Now, for the previous aspect, when you talk about biblical support, when it talks about the Bible. Well, when the Bible talks about a man being in charge, that had a woman, all these different types of things, respect, submit to your husband as you would submit to God. That stuff is talking about that king aspect, right? That being said, rebel. So the rebel is something that doesn't seem Christian at all. Isn't a rebellious nature bad? Let's first go over what rebel actually means. Rebel means an idea is put forth by someone and you deny it. Now, you can either do it in the teenage, edgy kind of way, or you can do it in a way that actually proposes what is right. For instance, St. Peter. As we know about a lot of the apostles, they were martyred, which is a way of saying they were executed for the ideal of Christianity. Simon Peter was told, you deny Jesus, you keep your life. Because they were persecuting Christians at the time. Or, if you don't denounce Jesus, you will die. So it seems like it would be rebellious to say no. To say, I am going to keep preaching the name of Jesus, no matter what you think. That is rebellious. It's definitionally rebellious. But it's not rebellious in the sense of doing something wrong. It's rebellious in the sense of you are doing something right. So, when we're talking about, that one cringe TikTok, I'm like, why do good girls like bad guys? Or whatever it is, okay? That song stuck in my head still, because I used to watch these TikTok compilations like 6 years ago when I was a wee lad. I was like 13 maybe. I'm 19 now, so yeah, rough numbers. I don't remember exactly when I was watching that stuff. But, so cringe, right? But there's always this question of like, why do girls like bad guys and whatever? Okay, you probably heard this explanation a million times, but they don't actually like bad guys. They like certain things that bad guys embody. So in this case, they embody some of the king aspects. They embody they embody all the rebel aspects, right? But it's not held up by the concept of love. So that creates toxic relationships. That creates unhealthy relationships. When you have this dichotomy and everything's done out of love, you have balance. It's right. That's why it's a trifecta. So that being said, What they like about rebels is they do whatever they want no matter what they think. Okay? It's like the king, if the king kind of had his mask off moment, right? So, this is the aspect this is like the sexual aspect. Again, I don't want to get too vulgar in this video, but this love and respect, when linked with the sexual aspect, this will lead to the greatest relationship you could ever have. Because sex is very important. Within marriage, okay, you little hornballs, within marriage, there's no pride in having sex out of marriage. It's pretty cringe. And even if you want to say like, oh, well, is it just the Bible says that? It's just not good for you. Okay, every person I've worked with one-on-one psychologically, it's always the same thing when I had sex before marriage. It's very damaging for the psyches. So don't do that. That being said, it's still very important to be attractive in this way. And you also find this embodiment in Jesus when he was literally being chased down by the Sanhedrin his whole entire life. Or rather, when he first started preaching, right? So, early 30s. Or 30, whichever. 30, something. They say 30. It's something like 30. So, rebel is very important, right? When you go too far in a rebel, that leads to kind of this almost a similar problem as a king, like disconnected, but it's a very toxic disconnected. This is a lot of the stuff you see from the red pill. Teaches you to be very just not care about the woman's feelings at all. And it does say something to this archetype that works in terms of getting a woman to sleep with you. If you, okay, let me not give that guide out there, okay, but there is some truth to it because people use it and they get that result, which is it, quote unquote, working. I mean, it says if you do this, you will get that, and it works. So, it works in that sense, but it's not good. That being said, you got to take that part where it's true, where you find it in the Bible, and integrate it into this trifecta. All the stuff's found in the Bible, right? So, when you buy this trifecta, right, you are someone who is loving, but commands respect, and also has prowess. Okay, that's the type of man a woman wants. Capable. Right? So, for instance, let's do this. I'm going to have so much fun doing this. Alright, so, woman, here, okay, represented by a Barbie. Long story as how we got here. Okay? I'll explain that another time. Don't worry about it, okay? Barbie. Right, so, this Barbie is in the car. I'm going to give you one example that will demonstrate all three of these archetypes in action. So, Barbie's in the car. Well, let's just call her Barbie, right? Barbie's in the car. Jen was talking about this stuff and, just being a woman and kind of just gossiping and being kind of annoying, right? So, what you feel like doing is that, but you shouldn't do that, right? We can't do that anymore, right? Oh, this is so fun. Okay, so, you can't do that, right? So, you tell her nicely the first time, to stop doing that. So that's the loving aspect. You're not just immediately beating the crap out of her or anything like that or being really mean to her, but still you're showing love, but you're still commanding some form of respect, right? It's the king. So she says, you can't tell me what to do. So again, you feel like doing that. Shouldn't do that though. So now you evoke the king more, you stand your ground. Like, you know what? If you don't stop, I'm going to turn the car around and I'm going to drop you off back home. Straight up. Right? Don't do this. Oh, well, okay, I'm sorry for, telling you not to do something. That is the pushover stuff. Never do that. You can't tell me what to do. That's when you do rebel. Like, alright, well, you brought this upon yourself. Turn back around, drop off back home. That is the most concise example I've come up with. And it's also very humorous, because I just beat up a Barbie doll on video. Who did you come into this video expecting me to do that? Be honest. You did not see that coming. Okay? I'm a comedic genius. Anyway, so, on a more serious note, that was serious, but, I'm trying to have fun. Alright? I find this fun. With that being said, embodying all three of these archetypes is extremely important. Alright? This is the foundation that will allow for your relationship to be fruitful and to be successful. Alright. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. You may be wondering about looks, physique, so on and so forth. I'll make videos about money, status. I'll make videos about everything. But for now, just use your intuition. Think about, okay, what is the version of me that embodies all three of these archetypes, that is aligned in this biblical principle? Your intuition will start telling you Well, maybe stop being so fat. Maybe try starting a business. So on and so forth. Okay? Like I said, this is a foundational video. Subscribe for the videos that will be like the icing on this foundational cake. We have all the other stuff that will make you externally attractive so this internal attraction can mean something. That being said, join the Discord, like the video, so on and so forth. See you in the next one.